Welcome back. I got an awesome repeat guest, a person that I love having on to my podcast. Uh, Welcome back, man.
Yeah, dude, it's great to be back. It's been too long. We need to not let that that happen again. I know we've
Right?
both been busy and stuff like that, but yeah, connecting with you is always a pleasure. So
Yeah, it's likewise. I kind of went on to a podcast hiatus for the summer, mostly for one reason. I had a little person running around all summer that was on home from school, and
right,
it's
exactly.
just hard to put podcasts together when she's running around commenting in the background. You shouldn't say that, Dad. Okay, it's awesome though. But we the other day, and she is kind of the catalyst for today's episode because there's a couple things that I've been. My daughter went through this growth spurt, like massive growth spurt this summer. She
Cool.
last summer or last year she was a little kid. Now
Right.
she's 7 and she's 99th percentile worldwide for height. She's a tall girl. She'll probably
No
be
kidding.
5'10", 5'11", easy, you
Oh
know.
wow.
So
Yeah.
she's a tall kid. And one of the things that I noticed was, first of all, she got a lot stronger over the summer. And I kind of
Mhm.
I'm starting having to teach her about her own strength because when she swings it, it
Right.
hurts, Um,
right.
she connects. She's got a punch, But one of the things that was something that went through my head was this. She's starting to look like a young adult, and
Mhm.
that was something that popped into my mind. That
Mhm.
this little girl is going to start to be looked at as a young woman. And I started thinking, like, what can I do to help keep this kiddo safe? Well, the first thing was this summer, got her signed up for Muay
Right.
Thai. My wife and I were training
Perfect.
Muay Thai, and there's a great gym here, right? Great gym here in Vietnam. Number one Muay, and they're really cool coach. And they train just like just like they do in Bangkok. Like it's hardcore. It's
Yeah.
it's it's awesome. It's Muay Thai. It's brutal. It's brutal.
That's good. That's
And
that's spectacular. Yeah.
right. And I looked at my wife and I
Yeah.
said, we need to get our daughter into this class. She needs to know how to defend herself. And my wife was like,
Mhm.
all right, let's do it. And my daughter got in and she took to it like fish to water, man. She can
Oh, that's
she
great.
can
That's so
strike.
awesome.
Like she's just like wham, and
That's
she's
so
got this
awesome.
right hand. It's just like, whoa, did not see that, and she just loves
Yeah.
it. But part of it was, looking at this idea of safety and protecting yourself. Now, I'd love put that out there. I'd love to hear
Mhm.
your thoughts on that real quick.
Yeah, I've actually tried to get my girls to join some kind of martial art, but I found um, if it's my idea, it's typically a dumb idea. So I have to like try to socially engineer the situation to make it seem as though it was their idea, and I'm still working on that. My my youngest will probably be more inclined to do something like that. She kind of likes individual sports or individual activities anyway, and grappling or striking and stuff would be something I think she could really excel at. Something I joke around with both of them actually is like if they're going through life and they mess up, even if it's not an athletic endeavor, I tell them be more athletic, and it's half joking, but I think there's some real value in just knowing how your body moves, like body awareness, and how your body can interact with the environment is super important. So actually, my kids were out of school all summer too, and so Athena, my youngest, she and I just spent a lot of time just kicking the soccer ball this
That's
summer,
awesome.
and from like day one to when she went back to school last week, her kicking got significantly better. She was less afraid of the ball coming at her, and overall she's gotten better at knowing how her body works, which I think is like the first step
It's
in
huge, man.
progressing towards maybe eventually a combat sport or something like that. But still trying to
Right?
figure out how to get her into jujitsu. We'll get there some point though.
Someday. Someday. Well, one of the things that
Yeah.
one of the ways that I was able to segue for my daughter into it was actually something. My daughter loves scary movies. She just loves them. Like she's just like her mom. I
That's
when I
awesome.
was a kid, I couldn't handle scary movies. Like for me, I'd watch a scary movie, I couldn't sleep for a month.
Yeah.
And one of the most terrifying for me were zombie movies. Always zombie movies
Oh yeah.
terrified me
Yeah.
to the core of my being. And I didn't always know
Right.
why,
Right.
but I thought about it later on, and I could kind of think about it. But we kind of got to this point because my daughter was watching Train to Busan with us, which is probably one of the best
Oh,
zombie
cool.
movies
Yeah.
ever. Yeah, I love that movie. And we were
That's
watching
great.
it, and she was sitting there with me, and we were talking about this, like, what would you do? What would you do? What would you do?
Right.
And
Right.
because Train to Busan, they've got fast zombies. Like this is the thing with zombie movies. You got
Oh,
the
right.
different like
Which are the scary ones?
you got the Walking Dead zombies that kind of shuffle. Like
Yeah.
like pretty much most of us would be safe from the Walking Dead universe. I don't know how anyone gets bit there because they're just like shuffle.
Right.
Then you got the World War Z zombie movies are the exact opposite of the spectrum. They got like a
E-
superhuman strength,
Exactly.
like it's
Right.
crazy, man. But we were watching it and it started into this, well, how would you survive a zombie apocalypse? And I was just like,
Yeah.
this is something I need to discuss on my podcast. Because like, how great of an idea is that? Like, what would you do? So without further ado, what would you do to survive a zombie apocalypse, brother?
So I'm actually a huge fan of zombie movies, and primarily because I'm interested in um, how society breaks down and then reestablishes itself in that kind of scenario. Because
Right.
the zombies, like particularly in like Walking Dead, the zombies I think are less of a threat than actually other people, right?
Yes.
Um, so so how would I survive a zombie apocalypse? I would probably begin by trusting no one first,
Right.
unless they are vetted and like some of my maybe old teammates or something like that. Because um,
Yep.
I'm a big fan of the like post apocalyptic genre. Anyway, I read a lot of books of like end of the world stuff, and they're tons of fun. But it's always the people that take advantage of that end of world scenario to become like bloodthirsty warlords, right? Those are the people you have to
Yep.
watch
Yep.
out for. And so the zombies, depending on your variety of zombie, if they're the slow movers, uh, I think that's all right. Just shoot for the head, or if you don't have a gun, uh, I think a 20-ounce framing hammer is great because you never have to reload a hammer.
Yep.
um, so, all right. So, how would I survive? Start off, don't trust anybody. Second
Yep.
is ensure that you have plenty of cardio because being able to run away from somebody is probably
Yep. Yep.
your best option because you don't know if an ambush is being laid for you or whatever. Having it's funny how in depth I've thought through this, but the having like
No, no.
a
I'm with
close
you, man.
a close like right, like a hand to hand weapon that's quiet that again doesn't need reloading. I think a framing hammer you can do a lot of damage with just a hammer. Um, Edged weapons are great, but eventually they need sharpening. A blunt object is just something that's easy to wield and probably pretty satisfying as well. um, but also
Right.
having some kind of long range training too. So um, I read Zombie Survival Guide by who was it? Brooks, something Brooks. Maybe it was Max Brooks. But one of the takeaways I got from that book was instead of opting for like the higher caliber rifles, like a simple 22 is great because you can carry a ton of ammo with you, and
Mm.
a gun is as good as long as you have ammo, right? So if you run out of ammo, then it's just a club that looks funny.
Yeah.
So being able to carry plenty of ammo with you, and then a 22, you can use it for a ton of things. Like you could hunt with it, and you can take out small game, but also deter deter living threats and then take out unliving threats, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So trust no one, be able to run away, be comfortable using a short range weapon, and then the longer range, like with some kind of small caliber rifle, I think is the way to go.
there's something
Oh,
there that you
and some
touched.
kind of
Go through.
ear. I think some kind of ear protection too. So sorry,
Right?
guns are loud. And so if you're shooting particularly in like an enclosed space, like all the people from the Walking Dead universe have to have zero hearing now, just constant tinnitus in their ears because they're always shooting inside or in super closed spaces. I can't imagine losing my hearing in a situation like that, because that's one of the a good threat detectors, being able to hear them coming. All right, there you
I never thought about
go.
that. This is something that I never thought about. This is what exactly why I wanted you on, man. I love your perspective. Like I'm like, wow, we got to
Yeah,
protect your hearing. You just never thought about that. One of the things
yeah.
too, the things that you pointed out there, and I think that the things that one of the things that makes zombie movies so scary is because one of the things that in life I think we take for granted is the system that we live in. You know, the
Oh yeah,
system
absolutely. Yeah.
that keeps you safe, the system that you exist inside of. I remember once that when I was living I'm not where I'm at right now, but a different country. And I was having this discussion with friends, and we were talking about the police, and
Right.
we were discussing, how police interact with people in different countries. And one of the things like that I said is like, well, when you call, the police will come. And my friend was blown
Right.
away. He's like, they come when you call, like
Right.
they come. And I was like, yeah. Oh, well, do they not do that in your country? And he's like, no, please don't call when you come. Like they don't
Really.
look at problems, unless
Oh
you're.
wow.
And I
Yeah.
was just like, whoa, mind blown, man. And it's like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
this idea of like the safety net is not there. And and
Hmm.
it's like you said, don't trust anyone. And I guarantee you, like, society has dissolved, everything's fallen apart. We're going to be entering into some weird bartering system, and people are going to, like, only want
Right.
to step out and help people if there's something in it for them, and we have
Oh,
that in
absolutely.
our
Yeah.
everyday lives way more in a
Hmm.
post-apocalyptic world, and so you
Yeah.
don't have all of this stuff that you think is there to protect you, and that's what I
Hmm.
think is so scary. And like most of the zombie movies are in that in between phase as you're going from
Right.
when stuff starts to fall apart,
Yeah.
and,
Yep.
and Train to Busan, perfect example. They are in the
Yeah.
stage where everyone starts to realize it. It's like, oh man,
Hmm.
stuff is going bad right now. And
Right.
and I think Walking Dead kept the show going long enough that they transitioned to what happens after. And The Last of Us
Right.
also is way beyond everything falling. That show takes place when everything's, they've already got new governments established and new things in place.
Yeah.
Um, but then the other part is, and that was a great thing with Zombieland. Zombieland had all of the checklists, that everyone was doing, and
Right. Yeah.
but cardio. I think people overestimate
Right.
overestimate what they're capable of, and you get that with, like, you see that on American Idol, or how many people watch a UFC fight and be like, oh, dude, I would have kicked his butt. I don't know how he got knocked out in 5 seconds. And then,
Right.
dude, no, you would get smoked in a professional fight,
Hey,
and then
absolutely.
how are those people
Absolutely.
going to handle combat, like full blown combat of the undead trying to
Right.
eat you?
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. No, I think you're spot on. I think um, the how do I put it? It's like, because we live in such a privileged society of you can have just about anything at your fingertips. I mean, Amazon delivers overnight, right? You can order
Yeah.
anything. But if all that is taken away, now you are 100% completely self-reliant. And we I think have, as a society, has gotten away from that quite a bit. And I understand it. Like, I don't have to worry about hunting for my food because I can just go to the store and buy some. But when all that is taken away, uh, a lot of those skills of self reliance have we don't know how to do it anymore. And so a
Right.
lot of people are going to be on the struggle bus, and that's what creates that desperation of like, I will do anything to eat today. And that's when
Hmm.
people start to, I don't know, backstab each other and betray each other and set ambushes. And that's when you,
Right.
all the books and stuff I've read, it's like that's when like the warlords take over because they can provide that sense of security, and even if it is through brutal means, so people cling to that, and then they drink the Kool Aid and follow whatever orders are given. You know what I mean?
Right. There's one of the things too that I think that we were talking about this beforehand, and the idea about just like that moral compass, like in life, you have this compass, this North Star of like, and we all lean toward things. Like, I remember when I was a kid, one of those things that I was like, I just can't wait till I get a license. Can't wait till I get married. Can't wait till I have a
Right,
kid. Can't
right,
wait till I have
right.
this. What happens when everything's pulled? The rug is completely pulled away. Like there's not necessarily anything to
Yeah,
look forward to. And I mean, and one of the reasons I like thinking about these things, and I know people are like, well, zombie apocalypse, it's great to think about, but all of us encounter storms in our life. All of us will have the rug
yeah.
pulled out from under us at some point in time, whether that's a person. My mom had a tough day yesterday. She went in for a scan and found out that she has arthritis in her right, no, osteoporosis in her right hip at the level that's high
Oh,
enough that
geez.
it's actually something that she needs to be concerned about. And that was the rug
Right,
pulled out from under
right,
her. And so she's now, she's going to do what she can to treat things and to rebuild. But at the same time, it was that moment where the stability that you think you have is not there. And that's like, what
right.
the heck, man? That's scary. It's
Yeah,
scary.
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's when that's taken away that, like I said, people can get desperate when they're faced against their own mortality, and that's kind of how we're designed. We want to survive, and and then it kind of going back to what you said, that moral compass is like, well, in a situation where the end of the world is here, how far am I willing to go to protect my kids and my family, and secure their well being and ensure that they can eat. I don't know. I'm not saying that I would I would hope that I'm ruthless enough to protect them to the end. But I can't imagine like looking at my kids as they're starving. Like what am I willing to do to go help them? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's an interesting situation. I think I read or heard somewhere that you need ethics your ethical code and your morals should be established long before you ever need them. And so kind of going through these kind of thought experiments, as fun as they are, it is important to reflect on like, all right, what am I willing to do and what am I not willing to do? Like, what's the hard no? It's like, all right, I just have to find another way, you know, because trying to figure out what your ethical code is in amidst the chaos is probably not the right answer.
Right. Well, and again, people don't realize that they a lot of people don't realize that they have that. And this is one of the great things about zombie movies is that each of us has the potential to be a monster, and people
Right,
don't want to
right,
look
right.
at that. They want to think that I'm a great guy.
Yeah,
I would never do that stuff. I would never be. All of us have the potential to be a monster. All it takes is one bite
yeah,
and those things come out. One of the things that I ask a lot of my students is this: if you had superpowers, what would you do? And
yeah.
what superpower do you want? Would you be the guy protecting people, or would you be the
Mhm.
person robbing the bank? you know and it's like they
I
were
mean, right.
like, I'm gonna be the good guy. Okay. All right. Now let's imagine this. that you have these superpowers, but your mom is starving. Would you still
Right.
be the good guy? You know, and they're like,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
maybe I would. And I was like, ah, there you go. That's the slippery slope.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. There's a there's a great movie. I think it's called Brightburn, but
Yes,
it was
yes,
modeled. Yeah, you've seen it.
Brightburn's good.
So I think, yeah, it was modeled after like the Superman scenario where, an alien lands in a farm in Kansas or something, and he's adopted and taken in by local farmers, and they raise him, but they realize that he is starting to exhibit unusual powers like strength and speed and eventually heat vision and that type of thing. And the comic books are great. Superman was my favorite comic book character because he chose to be good always, even amidst his
Yeah,
like godlike powers. But the movie Brightburn was, I think, a little bit more realistic when you have a young man who's going through puberty and all the hormones are raging, and now he has this
right.
near unlimited power. I think it's more likely
Jeez.
that he would begin to abuse it because, like, who could stop him? You know what I mean? Well,
Mm-hmm.
so it's
No,
an
that's a good.
interesting movie. Yeah.
I love that. It's so true. Like, geez, man, I can't even imagine that I had unlimited power at 14. I'd be
Right.
doing stupid stuff.
Right. Yeah,
Just
yeah.
literally stupid stuff. Not even evil. Just like, hey, let's see if I can use my X-ray vision to do something dumb. You know,
Right. Right.
that
Yeah,
would have been
exactly.
me. And goodness gracious, thank goodness I didn't have that power. But it goes along to the. It's scary for many people to think about this. It's so scary that some
Mhm.
countries, specifically China, has banned zombie movies. And I think
Really
because zombie
interesting.
movies also have the yeah underlying assumption too of a fall of a civilization, of a country, of
Yeah.
people losing
Yeah.
control, and that there is
Hmm.
this overall fear of zombies, and of this of things going
Right.
out of control. Because again, you look at the idea of people having to be resourceful. And, it's like I love the idea of and in one of the things with it, Vietnam, our houses would be much more secure than the U.S. houses. Like, I live in a
Really? Okay.
concrete fortress, man. Yeah, oh yeah, dude. We live in a concrete
Yeah.
tower, and it is solidly built. We have completely
Yeah.
giant steel doors in the front, double
Right.
deadbolts, like big old locks that we lock from the inside. And because people, it was a country that experienced a civil war recently,
Right. Right.
and it
Yeah.
was, there were not zombies, but it was still people brought down to that survival level. You ever see Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where at the
Yeah.
very
Yeah. Yeah.
basic you have food, shelter, things like that, and above that you get a higher
Hmm.
thing, and then up here's art and beauty and things like that. But
Exactly.
down here, all people are thinking about is just surviving. And there were stories of people handing their kids to strangers. And this happened recently in, like, I believe when the US was pulling out of Afghanistan. There were
Oh yeah.
people
Yeah.
just handing their children, take my child, take my child, and it's
Yeah.
like, when you
Yeah.
get to that place of survival, people will do anything to protect their families and themselves.
Hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. And it's scary to think about. And again, kind of going back to the importance or the benefit of this thought experiment is like reflecting on, like, all right, what am I willing to do? Because a lot of people haven't really experienced real hunger, like haven't eaten in a week,
Yes.
and things
Yeah.
get things get a little blurry at that point because you're like, all you can think about is trying to find something to eat, or whatever the case is, and it's your decision making process is altered because, like, yeah, your base level of needs has not been met, and that's all you can think about. And yeah, and when you realize that it's like we are going to sort of starve or get run over by the horde or whatever, yeah, handing your kid off to a stranger because it gives them at least a chance to survive is, it's like, man, that's a serious spot to be in for sure.
One of the things too, like I kind of reoriented my my mental space to kind of. I had some neighbors. I have some neighbors that are perpetually violent. Like they are always looking for fights with everyone. And I mean, we saw
Really?
one time,
Yeah.
dude, yeah, nuts. We saw our neighbor once, and he calmed down. The police got on top of him. He got arrested. Um, but he would start these street fights, and like they were big,
Yeah.
man. Like 30 dudes, fighting 30 other dudes.
Jeez.
And once they had like they would run into this house and come out with swords and like just like swords. They
No
don't have
kidding.
guns here,
Jeez.
dude. Swords, like yeah, it
Right.
came out
Right.
with like big old machetes, and they would chase after these guys. And
Yeah.
one he came out with a trident, like a trident, like spear, 3 feet. And I was like, didn't they have that in like in Ron Burgundy, man? Like the trident.
Right. Where did you get a
I was like,
trident?
whoa, he's got a trident. And I was like terrified. I'm looking down from our room, 6 stories up, looking down at this going on. I was like, wait, he's got a trident. He's got a trident.
Yeah.
And like he's chasing people down with a trident. And there's they don't have swords lately, but they're always looking for a fight with someone.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they tried to start stuff with my family once, and they got really aggro. We started throwing punches with my in-laws, and I'm just like pulling people inside, backing people off,
Yeah.
and trying to get my family all inside. And that woke me up to like I need to train. That
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
moment things could go down, and I mean
Absolutely.
we again, and
Yeah.
we've talked about this. We live in this feeling of safety. We've got our safety, we've got our internet. There was this one video I saw that was, I believe, in LA, and this guy was getting ready to go through this underpass, and he noticed that there was a
Hmm.
car just chilling there, and then a bunch of kids jumped out and tried
Oh
to
yeah.
rob him, and he gunned it. He's like, "Woo," just floored it past them.
Yeah.
But it was like just cruising down the road, and people,
Yeah.
you never know, man. So I started saying
Yeah.
to myself, I need to start looking at this like any day. Yeah, I need to be ready. And so
Right.
I got back in Muay Thai. I started training my cardio,
Yeah.
every day. I'm doing 30 minutes
Right.
of cardio,
Yeah.
you know, and of course weight training as well, but like making sure that my cardio is up, because it's important,
Absolutely.
man.
Yeah.
Eating right, taking care of my health and doing all these other things,
Hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. And I don't think people realize how really, I think, close we are to that situation where it's just like the hordes are running loose. I mean, it's really like one natural disaster or one, I don't know, chaotic event that shuts things down. Like you turn the power off for a week and all your food's gone bad and the grocery stores have been looted. That's like, all right, things are getting pretty serious, So yeah, we're really not that far removed from that kind of scenario. I think it's because when, yeah, you shut everything down and people are left to their own devices, it can get pretty hairy. Yeah, I think I've seen that same video about the with the overpass and stuff. It's just like, it's just a standard ambush, somebody just chilling
Yep.
and waiting for an unsuspecting victim. And at least the driver of the vehicle had the gumption to just get out of there, and,
Yep.
he saw the threat or recognized the threat and responded appropriately. Some people, they freeze up and they just sit there and like, they rely very heavily on the hope that the people that are attacking them won't go too far, And like I said, when we first started, rule number one: don't trust anybody,
Yeah. One of the things that I think that zombie movies get wrong, though, and this is something that I've seen from many natural disasters and when things start falling apart. I was talking to my daughter about this the other day. There's a couple types of people in the world. There are wolves, and we've talked
Mm,
about the wolves. Those are the warlords.
mhm.
There are sheep, and there are many sheep out there. But there are also
Yeah, yeah,
sheepdogs, and the
yeah.
sheepdogs are the people who step up. And I know, like I see it. I see it in my classrooms. I see it in people I work with and in workshops and in just everyday life. You know who those people are going to be. I've got this one class,
Mm,
and I can tell you who the sheepdog is in that class. It's this kid named Benjamin. If things went down,
mhm.
I know Benjamin would stand up and start protecting his classmates, and he would stand up
Yeah,
and
yeah,
do the
yeah.
right thing because
Mhm.
it's there. They've been trained, they've been
Yeah,
taught, and that's what I was talking to my daughter about. In Why do I study Muay Thai, Daddy? So that you can be the sheepdog. So that when you
yeah,
see a friend at school get shoved by the bully, I hate seeing these videos. I saw this video the other day of these kids
yeah.
confronting this kid, and then everyone's just standing around. The kid gets knocked out, and everyone's just filming it on their phone. At any point in time,
Right.
any of those people standing around could have stepped up and said, "Dude, guys, back off, leave him alone."
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we need more sheepdogs. We need more people who will step up. And like you saw it with the Maui fires, there were all of these
Mm,
people that were like, we didn't get enough of a response, man. And they were doing it.
right.
They were stepping up. They were
Yeah,
helping their community. They were taking food to each other. They were doing everything they can, like giving people shelter. They were like, and there was one point they're like, we have enough clothes right now. We don't need to send clothes. We've
yeah,
got these supplies. This is what we
yeah.
need. And it was just like,
Yep.
it's amazing. And those are the sheepdogs. They're
Yeah,
they're out there, and they are, and you know what I mean. I'm sure you ran into a bunch of them working in the teams because that those type of people are attracted to that type of work. You know what I mean?
yeah. No, I totally agree. Uh, with one caveat, I think is a friend of mine and I we had just wrapped up our medic training and we were going through the Q course and stuff like that, and we were having almost this exact discussion about sheepdogs versus wolves and stuff. And he had an interesting perspective, and I after listening to him, I tended to agree with him. But he says sheepdogs are interesting because the sheep are comfortable around them. They understand that the sheepdog is different than the sheep, but he interacts with the sheep frequently. He's amongst the flock often. Typically works alone, and they are comfortable with his presence. Um, but my friend was telling me, he's like, dude, we can't be sheepdogs. We have to be wolves too. And I was like, tell me more. And he said,
Ooh, ooh,
as
tell me
we
more.
as we as
I like
aspiring
this.
Green Berets. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was like, tell me more. So as aspiring Green Berets, and eventually we got to the teams. He was accurate. It's like on the teams we don't work alone. We always work in a pack or in a team
Mm,
environment. Like we never clear a room by ourselves. We are always and it's that pack mentality. These are the guys that I would kill or die for without hesitation. And it's important to have, I think, the good wolves too uh,
yes.
that don't really blend in with the rest of the flock. That they do stand out. They're not comfortable. The other sheep, for lack of a better term, aren't comfortable around them because there's something different about them. They can smell the dangerous on them, and the difference between a bad wolf and a good wolf is like we are aimed in the right direction. Like and so I liked that analogy. It's like, yeah, there's absolutely sheepdogs out there that will step up and do the right thing. But I think there's also good wolves out there that you set loose into the wild to go hunt down the bad wolves because violence is something that we've become fluent in and something that we can use as a tool. And we're not afraid because that's kind of why we signed up. We're not afraid to get messy, so to speak. And it's less about directly defending the flock that I'm amidst, but rather going out and hunting the wolves, if that makes sense.
Oh, no, 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 total sense, man. There is this importance of I was walking home one night, and I saw this guy, and he had this woman kind of cornered. He had a hand against the wall. He
Mm.
was leaning in, and then his hand went up, and I was like, I was there. I was I was just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I was in it. I was like, dude, you need to back off. You need to back off of this woman right now. And
Yeah.
and then guy backed off. I was much bigger than him, and I think that was part of it. But
Mm.
he started screaming at me, yelling at me, and he's like, "This is my wife. This is my wife." And I was like, "Doesn't matter, dude.
Right.
You don't put your hand
Right.
around someone's
Exactly.
throat. You don't do
Yeah.
that."
Yeah.
And later on, I was chatting with people, and there was this thing that people were like, "You got to be careful about getting involved, man. You got to be careful about getting involved. We need to be willing to step up when we see something going wrong." And I think that
Absolutely.
that's one of the problems with with zombie movies, and one of the things that I think there is this immediate assumption that the good people will fall. You know what I mean? Because they step up, because they're trying to get involved.
Right.
But I still think that
Right.
maybe, because if you're looking at it with the sheepdogs, maybe the sheepdogs will fall, but the wolves that are fighting
Mm.
back against the wolves, they'll still be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
They won't fall easy. You know what I mean? And I think
Right.
that's
Right.
powerful, man. And I think that if I could take anything from this, it's that that I'm going to start training my daughter to be a wolf. Be a wolf.
Yeah. And I
Today
I highly
we were
recommend
talking
it.
about yeah, we were talking about jobs, and I was like describing to her, um, you know, she's like, I don't know, what do the police do, Dad? And I was like, started describing. I was like, this is like, you want to talk about, like, talking to her about the FBI and things like that, and she was like, so that's
Right.
awesome. That's interesting. Like, wow,
Yeah.
they go
Yeah.
and solve these high level crimes, like serial killers and stuff. And I was like, yeah. She's like, she was just blown away because she
Yeah.
had never conceptualized the idea of a wolf hunting other
Right.
wolves.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's something I go back and forth because, my girls are my babies and I want them to um, be little girls. But I also understand that the world is not pleasant everywhere, And so having that capacity for violence is, I think, an important skill set to learn. And it is a learned thing. Maybe some people have a proclivity to be overly aggressive or violent even, but you can learn how to do it too. And something I say is like one of my most recent team sergeant. He was he's the most laid back, chillest guy ever, just talking, and he's running around in Crocs and like a fanny pack and stuff, and he cracks me up. I love him, but to watch him work in a house, like clearing rooms, he is fluent in the language of violence. Like he just knows how to move like a killer, and that is a skill set that he has developed over years, and and that's something that I think people with, again, going back to having established a moral code, an ethical code, having, if you have the proper ethics in place, if you can then on top of that place the capacity for violence and know how to do it properly, man, you are a force to be reckoned with in a good way. um, and I think, yeah, it's something that I want my girls to kind of embrace. um, but he, but again, I do try to shelter them from that too. Like for a long time, they didn't even know what I did for work. I just said I'm a medic in the Army, um, and then it wasn't until after I got out that they started realizing, oh wait, you were you were a Green Beret, which is,
Yeah.
uh, it has a different skill set than just medicine. So I don't know. It's tough. I think having that capacity to do things that um, will protect those around you, and it might even scare those around you when you do it. I think it's still an important thing to learn.
There was something there too that you tagged on, and I wanted to. We live, and you see this in movies. Like it used to be when I was a kid, there were clear villains. Like this guy was the
Right,
bad
right,
guy,
right,
and now
right.
and I understand why it's more this way. Like you know, characters have become more nuanced. Like it's not as
Yeah,
black and white. Yeah, this person makes choices to be bad, and this person makes choices to be good. And we have a lot of great anti-heroes, characters that were bad that become good, characters that were good become bad.
yeah.
But one of the things that I've realized is that there is evil, bad people. There are
Mm,
people who have that rejoice in violence and hate and
yeah,
in just
yeah.
negativity, man. They are there are people who have gone bad, and and I think
Right,
that some people don't even comprehend that. Again, we live in
right.
this very sanitized world, and in social media, man, it feeds you back these ideas about this rosy world so often. And now
Right.
the new forms of social media are almost like a level of a distraction. It's like, let's look at the people dancing,
Yeah.
let's look at this. It's like,
Right, right, right. Yeah.
meanwhile, somewhere in and this is one of the things that was interesting with before she wrote Harry Potter. J.K. Rowling worked for, I believe, Amnesty International, reading letters about
Oh, really?
atrocities.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Reading letters about atrocities in around the world. People were writing letters talking about things that they'd experienced, and she was one of the people who
Mhm.
read these letters and would go through them. In this book, her books were written to help kids understand the concept of atrocities,
Mm,
the concept
yeah,
of what happens when you start having the people close to you and they're touched by violence. And I think
yeah,
that's
yeah,
one of the reasons I always like those book series, is because they touched on that. They looked at that. They look at
yeah,
this world where everything's rosy and these kids are front and center in a
yeah.
a very violent man's mission to cause and create evil and spread evil on this world. So
Right,
again, coming back
right.
to that moral compass concept, it's like, um, you don't have to. What was it? It was that great quote: "The devil's greatest deception was making everyone believe he didn't exist."
Right, right. Yeah, yeah.
If you don't think bad is out there,
No,
man.
yeah, but it really is, um, and it's scary to think about, particularly if you've done any kind of traveling, like I know you have. Like you, Western society is relatively sheltered, I would say, and they don't.
Yeah,
The people that complain the most about kind of their situation, and particularly in the U.S., I immediately assume that they haven't traveled anywhere,
yeah.
because it is significantly worse in a lot of other places, and then there's a lot of places that are really good too. But I, I just yeah, I think the folks that complain about how bad it is, particularly in America, I just assume that they haven't experienced a whole lot on the outside, because I've seen some bad stuff, like people that are just not doing well, because their situation is so dire. You know what I mean? So I'm incredibly grateful for where I am, but I do have that fear of becoming soft, so to speak, because
Yeah.
I want to try to maintain that edge, because I think it's important.
What would you be? Um, 3 recipes to prepare yourself for shit hitting the fan. What are three things that you think
Yeah.
people can do to kind of prepare themselves for things going south? Whether it be
Mm,
an underpass, people
great
jumping,
question.
like preparing an
Sure.
ambush in an underpass, or zombie
Yeah.
apocalypse. What do you think? Three ways people can prepare themselves for things going south.
Yeah. I I think the first one that came to mind is practicing a semblance of self-awareness and situational awareness on top of that is
Yes.
when you walk into a room, who's in the room? And where the yeah, where are the exits? As you walk in, and this is something I do, and maybe I'm wrong and maybe I'm right, but like I walk in and I scan a room and I immediately start um, listening to my intuition. Okay, who's a potential threat?
Yeah.
Uh, who might have had too much to drink tonight and wants to get rowdy. Most people don't. Most people, when they go out and they're having some drinks with their friends, they just want to hang out and have a good time. I think 99% of that is that case. But having like a, a semblance of situational awareness of like who might be looking for something because they're bored or they're just overly aggressive.
Yeah.
Um, I think that would be one is just be aware of your surroundings. I actually did this with Athena last night um, or the night before. We've been starting to do like evening walks. So like when it's night out and the stars are out, and she likes to go out because it's cooler and it's for a 9-year-old. I guess it's fun to walk around at night. So we were doing that, and I'm looking around because that's what I do, and it's kind of ingrained in me now. But I was talking to her, and I was like, Athena, who else is out here with us? And she's like, What do you mean? Well, there's more people out here. Who are they? Where are they? And she starts looking around. I don't see anybody. And I was like, Look straight ahead about 100 meters, and there's a couple walking their dog, and she didn't even see him. And granted, she's 9, so her
Mhm.
her scope of attention is like 3 feet in front of her. But I do want to start
Yeah.
training her to look up and look around and listen for things. So, all right, so that's recipe number one is situational awareness. I think the second thing is understanding that your life is 100% your responsibility, and
Yeah.
the direction that your life heads is entirely a result of the actions you've taken and will take. And so, if you want to be able to fend off attackers, then you have to adjust your life in such a way that you are able to run away or defend yourself in some capacity, whether that's with weight training or some kind of combat sport, something like that. So being aware that, yeah, your life is your responsibility. And yeah, maybe we live in a country where the police do show up, but they might be 10 minutes away. A lot can happen
Yeah.
in 10 minutes. I mean, yeah, you've competed in sports like combat sports, like 6 minutes on a mat is
Yeah.
forever.
It's a
Particularly if you're
long
going
time.
full bore, it's a long time. And that's typically with one opponent. Imagine if there's 3 or 4 or 10, things get bad real quick. And so understanding that the ability to have the police show up in time might not be there. So that I think that would be the second tip. The third one is probably long term planning. Then, if you like the preppers online maybe get a lot of I don't know flack for stockpiling food and stuff, but I think that's actually a pretty good idea. And
Yeah.
maybe not even for like end of the world scenario, but what if your power goes out for 3 days? And the
Right.
food in your fridge starts to go bad, or I mean, do you have water on hand? Do you have the means to like crack open a can of beans and cook it if you don't have any power? So some of that longer term planning and thinking ahead, not because you're crazy, but because in situations where you need to eat, it's nice to have some food on hand. It kind of going back to your hierarchy of needs. If you're starving, that's all you can think about is food and where can I get my next meal. But if you have saved up food, if you've stockpiled food or something like that, or supplies, then then you can start thinking ahead of other things like how to reestablish society, or how to um, set yourself up for success in the next, maybe fortifying your your home, or something along those lines. So like you can start thinking further than just like your next meal, and that's how you create safety, is because you have the capacity to think ahead, because you're not just starving and that's all you're consumed by. So I think those would
I
be my
love that,
three.
man. There was one of the things that I that, that popped up when you were talking about that was when I fly, it's always an interesting experience. I have food allergies, and that'd be one of the challenges for me in the zombie apocalypse is how I'm going to find food, because
Right.
I have really extreme allergies. And all I can eat are beans, rice, and veggies. So it's actually a ridiculously
Yeah.
healthy diet. Like I can't eat any fatty
Right.
carbs.
Yeah. Exactly.
I
Yeah.
Yeah, I eat brown rice, beans, and veggies at every meal for the past 10 years. So my
Yeah.
cholesterol is ridiculously low, and I feel good. But when I fly, like I can't ever eat airline food, so I pack my own food. And if we got a long layover,
Right.
if when I fly from end to end from the U.S. to Vietnam, or Vietnam to the U.S., it's about 24 hours travel time, right? And I'll
Oh
pack
wow. Yeah.
food normally, but there are some times where we'll get a
Hmm.
long layover, and then I go hungry. Now, one of the things that
Right.
I want my daughter to learn is to learn to be hungry sometimes. People are like, "Are
Oh
you
yeah. Yeah.
okay?" Like I'm like,
Right.
I've trained
Right.
myself because of my food allergies. I've trained myself to skip meals, to go without meals, and then when I get food, I
Mhm.
eat. I eat a lot, but like I
Oh
think
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
good that people so often don't know how to be hungry, and they don't understand that
Hmm.
like hunger is not bad. It's not bad being hungry, but it's bad to let the
Right.
hunger control you. It's bad to let that
Exactly.
hunger
Yeah.
like run you. And so if you can learn
Yeah.
to handle discomfort, if you can learn to be uncomfortable and it being okay, I think you gain
Right.
like a
Yep.
superpower. And so it's like
Oh,
that mental
absolutely.
toughness.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree.
So,
I do intermittent fasting pretty regularly, and
yeah,
every now and then, unintentionally, I just go a day without eating, like a full 24 hours. Whether it's primarily because I'm busy throughout the day and I just forget to eat. And but for me, that hunger, I have trained myself to actually enjoy it, because
yeah,
I understand what's actually going on inside my body on like a cellular level. It's like when you're hungry, your body releases a hormone that helps clean out all the junk in your cells, and so you're actually
yeah,
running more efficiently as a human when you're hungry. And I mean, it's just kind of what we're designed to do. Like we as a species, like we started out, hunting animals on the savannah, and it's like we didn't eat every day, and like you would go maybe a couple days without food. You finally kill the mammoth or whatever animal you were hunting, and then you take in all that food, and it was great, and it was like a reward. But that hunger is, I would argue, is actually the norm. That's actually how we should be operating. Or it's how we've kind of evolved to operate. And it doesn't have to be a horrible thing. But talking from experience, like through some of my training stuff, when you go, 3, 4, 5 days without real food, and you're like nibbling on plants from the wild that you found, it's your cognitive function does start to deteriorate after a
yeah,
point. And so when you're in that kind of situation, being able to give yourself a task, and stay focused on that one helps keep your mind off the hunger, but it also helps you kind of stay focused, so you're not just wandering aimlessly through the through the woods, which because then that's when you start making mistakes, and you're not watching where you step, and then you break an ankle, and then the bears come eat you or whatever. So
right. well, hopefully you have your wolf pack with you. Hopefully you got your wolf
yeah.
pack with you to help you through that.